Shivesh sir, done.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we can start now. Yeah, Manu, you can start.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for waiting, and thank you for the patience also. And our speaker, Disha ma'am, has already joined us. So we will just begin the session. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to welcome you, ma'am. And at the same time, I would like to invite Krishna Priya Sen, ma'am, the convener of CC committee, to welcome you. Please, ma'am.
I'm Dr. Krishna Priya Sen, convener of Cleanliness Committee of Shyama Prasad Mukherji College for Women. Welcome you all on this informative talk on health, hygiene, and environment. Implication of COVID-19 by our honorable speaker, Dr. Disha Sharma. Dr. Disha is a postdoctoral research associate from Princeton University, USA. Dr. Disha is a researcher, consultant, and environmental analyst. Our speaker is known for her wonderful achievements. We are very grateful to her for accepting our invitation to be the guest speaker for today's event. I would welcome, Madam, that you start the talk.
Thank you very much, Madam, for giving such an elaborate introduction. I don't know if I deserve all the accolades that you've mentioned for me, but I'm very grateful to be here today. Again, I would say. And yes, so I would like to thank Madam Principal, Dr. Sharma, and the members of the organizing committee, and of course, my friend, Dr. Shivesh Berwal, for giving me this opportunity of coming here once again, and speaking with the students and being a part of this event. So today my talk is about COVID-19, what we understand of the disease, and how important it is to maintain hygiene and all the COVID-19 appropriate behavior that has been prescribed by learned scientists and the community of doctors across the world. What is the scientific logic behind all the norms that have been set for prevention of this disease? So I will be briefly talking about what I have understood from all the research that has been conducted in a short span of 2 years about this problem that we are still grappling with. So with that, I would begin my presentation. Just give me a moment. I'll share my screen now. Yeah. So the topic for today is health, hygiene, and environment, and implications of COVID-19, and the need for COVID appropriate behavior in fighting this disease. So COVID-19 so far has proved to be a very, very bad global disaster. And why is it bad? Because it has affected almost all aspects of life on Earth, be it economy, be it the health sector, be it human life, be it education sector. All sectors across the globe have been very, very badly affected.
Disha, ma'am.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt in between. Have you shared the screen, because we are not able to see it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No problem, ma'am.
Is my screen visible now?
Not yet, ma'am.
Well, I have clicked on the option of multiple participants having the permission to share the screen simultaneously. So maybe the admin can look into it.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Tanya, could you please just check once?
Yes, ma'am. As a co-host, you can share your screen.
I actually have. I've shared my screen, but if it is still not working and if there's a technical glitch, then what I'll do is I'll forward my presentation to one of you.
Sure,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and then, you can just move the slides for me. So who do I send it to? I'm sending it to Shivesh.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
You can send me, I will send it to the... Yeah.
And you can also try to stop and start sharing again.
Yeah, let me try that once. Maybe it will work this way. Is it working now? I think it's working now.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
can see
Perfect.
everybody on the screen. Sorry for the glitch.
No problem, ma'am.
All right. So I'll walk through the slide again. So as I was talking about how vulnerable we are for the past 2.5 years because of COVID-19, which has been like a very, very big disaster that has affected all the countries, developed, developing, all of them very, very badly. And talking in terms of number, we have around 500 million people who are at the risk of falling into poverty. So poverty is definitely one of the worst effects that COVID has sort of, brought into the world. And then the world output has also decreased greatly because of this pandemic. And as a result of overall output falling, we also have a similar fall in the global trade amounting to somewhere from 13 to 32%, which is a huge, huge percentage. I mean, the countries are growing more and more disconnected because of all the travel restrictions and all the precautionary measures that are being taken to sort of avoid this pandemic. And similarly, there's been a drop in economies of different countries and foreign trade. And one of the biggest sectors that has actually been very badly affected is the education sector. So 80% students worldwide, which accounts for nearly 1.6 billion in all, have not been able to go to school and actually have had to come out of school by March 2020. This is a very, very dismaying fact in its own. And even, I mean, the adult population has also been affected, not only because of the economy is crashing, but all of this combined together has had a very big effect on the mental health as well. And, to sum it up all, there's been an increase in the unemployment ratio as well. So three major sectors, as I would say, that have been very badly affected because of COVID-19 undoubtedly has been the education sector, affecting schools and primary education majorly. Climate change as a sector has also sort of not been prone to the repercussions of the global slowdown, economic slowdown, which is reflected in nearly 30% decrease in the investments on the clean energy front. And globally, we've been pushed into poverty with about 200 million people uh, more added to the poverty index as projected by 2030. So these are very dismaying facts. And to add it, and talking specifically about India, India has also, I mean, we've just now sort of come into the third phase of COVID-19. We are doing well, uh, and there's been, I mean, the third phase is not as bad as the second phase in terms of mortality, in terms of the burden that is there on the health sector. Yet it is somewhere reflecting in the economic sector. And the first two phases have had a very, very big impact on the economy, which has, again, reflected in a major jump in unemployment numbers. Of course, in India itself, around 89% of the students couldn't go to school. There's been a very, very big dropout number because of the first and the second phase of lockdowns that were imposed, because of students having to attend classes and online lectures, being at home, sheltering at home, trying to, keep themselves safe from the pandemic. And so all in all, it has been a very, very difficult phase ever since we discovered this very infectious strain of coronavirus in 2019 December. And we are still grappling with it. The virus keeps mutating, and we have to keep ourselves ahead of the virus to fight it in totality. So moving ahead, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare prescribed a number of measures which were aimed at our protection, which were the steps that we were to take in order to keep ourselves safe. So for example, they prescribed that we should maintain proper social distancing, physical distancing. We should wear masks, avoid touching our nose, hands, mouth with hands, maintain a proper hand hygiene. By now, we very well are acquainted with all these preventive measures that have been prescribed. But what is the real logic behind prescribing these measures? Today, I'll be talking about the need to understand the scientific basis of all that has been prescribed so far to fight this pandemic, to fight this very infectious disease that has brought us back by many years, that has had a very big burden on the health sector and has actually brought down our system of many years in many ways. So understanding the air transmission and droplet spread of coronavirus is actually rooted in aerosol science perspectives. What are aerosols? Aerosols are basically suspensions of tiny particles of solid or liquids that are suspended in the air, or for that matter, in any other gaseous medium. To understand aerosols properly, you have to take example of air pollution. Air pollution mostly involves or is a result of a higher concentration of these aerosol particles that are emitted in the form of dust, that are emitted in the form of combustible material, that are emitted in the form of obnoxious gases. Fog is another example where we see a very high loading of aerosols. And similarly, aerosols, when combined with biological material, become bioaerosols and also play a very important part in spreading coronavirus. So sizes of the virus. So we inhale viruses. We inhale viruses because they're very, very tiny in their size. So for example, influenza virus is so tiny that it can go very deep into our lungs. Rhinovirus, adenovirus, or the SARS-CoV-2 virus. All these viruses are aerosol particles in the size range, which can be very easily breathed in. And once they are inside our bodies, they are capable of causing disease, provided their load is the aerosol load or the load of the virus that goes inside our system is high enough and high enough to fight the healthy cells inside our body and then take over our immunity. So these viruses, when they're emitted by us, by the host bodies, then they become a part of the respiratory fluid and then their size increases. This is in fact a good thing, that they become a little bigger in their size, because if they become a little bigger in their size, then that would mean that once they sort of, start getting transmitted, so the host is not just emitting a small virus, but is emitting a slightly larger particle that can have the ability to settle down on its own, or that can be stopped by wearing a barrier or putting a barrier in the form of a mask, etc., etc. So what are the routes of transmission of this virus? So now we know that this virus is capable of staying for a long time in the air, can be transmitted through the air passage, and which is why it becomes all the more important to use all the protective measures. So fomite, so here on the left side, you have a range of size of the particle and the kind of penetration that they're capable of making in the human body. Fomite means all the material surfaces on which the virus deposits. Well, through the material surfaces, you can transmit the virus by touching an infected material surface. If the virus is big enough in size, if it becomes a part of a larger respiratory droplet, it could acquire a size of something like 100 micrometers or slightly lesser than that, and then it can only get to our throat or the nasopharyngeal passage. But if it becomes smaller in size, if the concentration of the droplets is not very high, and if the size is small, then they can penetrate till our lungs. And if they still become very small and acquire the fraction, which is anywhere lower than 5 micrometer in size, then they have the capacity of entering into our bodies and then taking over our immune system and infecting us for good. So there is definitely a growing body of research on COVID-19 that provides abundant evidence for the predominance of the aerosol mode of transmission. And it is very important to understand that the aerosol mode of transmission, though predominant, but becomes a vital mode of transmission in certain environmental conditions, particularly indoor environments where there is very poor ventilation, and when in an indoor setting, once the virus is emitted, then it remains, inside for a very long time. If there is not enough channel of ventilation, if there is no inflow of outdoor air, and it has a higher capacity of infecting everybody who stays inside. So as I was speaking about the aerosol mode, now we have the global community of experts on aerosols agreeing, and WHO also sort of agreeing to the fact that COVID-19 can spread through air. And there have been very many experiments conducted to show the aerosol mode of transmission and to capture the spread of the virus once it is emitted, when somebody exhales or sneezes or talks. So I've given a link to one of the YouTube videos that was a part of an experiment, a research experiment that was conducted to capture, how far the aerosols can travel once a person sneezes. So this is the high-speed video capturing sneezing motion, and it clearly shows that when a person sneezes, the infected droplets can actually travel to a distance of approximately 8 meters, which is more than what we prescribe for social distancing, which is 6 feet or approximately 2 meters. So, if a person sneezes in an environment where there is a good air draft, or where there's good amount of air flowing, and there's turbulence in the atmosphere, then the droplets could travel to a distance of nearly 26 feet, which is quite high. So it explains why we should actually be cautious all the time, even when we're outside, and even when we're not really surrounded by a lot of people. It's very, very important to wear a mask whenever you expose yourself to outdoor environments in such a situation. So now there's research conducted that actually captures how the penetration route of these viruses according to their sizes, which I was talking about earlier on. And we know where do the particles of what size deposit in our respiratory system. And we also by now know what percentage of particles and of what size fraction are emitted as we speak or as we cough. So for example, the graph on the right side shows that as we speak, we emit particles of nearly one micrometer in diameter. And this comprises of, and the biggest particles could be somewhere around 10 micrometer, which clearly shows that the particles emitted are very infectious and are in the size fraction that can penetrate deep inside the lungs of somebody who's breathing in that infected air. So most particles that are emitted from our nose or mouth when we speak or cough are in the aerosol size range, which is very, very effective in infecting the person who's breathing in those particles. So short range versus long range transmission. So now we know that if we stand very close to a person who is sneezing or who's speaking and is infected already, then we have a higher probability of catching the virus because we are in We are in that air shed, we are in the air environment where there's a very high loading of these infectious particles. But that does not mean that, a person who's standing, say, 6 feet away is completely safe. That person could also get affected because the smaller aerosols that are infected or that have the virus integrated into them can travel long distances and can infect person who is standing like a long distance from a host. And if the person has his or her immunity compromised, then the person still is very vulnerable. So despite the fact that the aerosols and the droplets are more concentrated at close range, the small aerosols don't necessarily settle down closer to the host, but they have the ability to travel long distances from the source and infect a person whose immunity is compromised. We also have now conducted experiments that show us like at what airflow, what size range of the particle can travel, how many can cover what distance. For example, in an atmosphere of airflow of say 5 centimeter per second, which is what is shown in this picture here, a particle of size 5 micrometer can travel up to 80 meters, which is quite alarming because, we, like most of the people, think that it is only in close proximity of a host or an infected person that one can get affected. But no, if we have infected people around us, then, even 80 meters, we are not really entirely safe. So mask is a very, very important barrier and is a very important shield that can promise some protection from this virus. And why do I say that? I say that because there have been, again, very many experimental studies done to show the efficacy of masks and how they block that infected or the virus particle that becomes a part of the aerosol droplet, or that becomes a part of the respiratory droplet. So, if the size of the cloth, if the size of the sieve of the cloth is more than that of the aerosol particle, then the bioaerosol particle will pass through that sieve. But if the size of the cloth particle itself is bigger, then it will block. So it is all about how effectively the mask can filter and what kind of mask can provide what kind of sieve size and prove more effective. So here things would become more clear. So here we have the diameter. On the right side graph, on the x-axis, you have the diameter or the size of the sieve of different types of masks. And on the y-axis, you have the filtration efficiency based on their diameter. So you can very well see that, bandana lies like at the bottom of the graph, because in bandana, the size of two fibers that create a sieve, or the resulting diameter of the sieve is quite high, and it is not efficient enough in blocking all the aerosol or all the bioaerosol or the virus particles, which are way smaller in size. As we've seen, we have sizes of the respiratory droplet, which are less than 10 micrometer in size, and the diameter here is bigger than that. Cloth masks, again, are not too effective. And on the top of this graph, we have the K95 masks. K95 or N95 actually refer to the 95% blockage that they offer from the particles that are being inhaled. So now we know that, the degree of filtration of these aerosols basically depends on the aerosol diameter or the sieve size of the mask material. And needless to say that it is the most effective to wear the N95 masks because they are capable of removing 95% of the aerosol particles. So this is one of the questions that, most of us probably have gotten a little confused about and asked ourselves as to why should we wear a mask? You would have thought that I'm healthy and, I'm not infected, so perhaps I should not wear a mask. I'm healthy enough. Or if you are infected yourself, then also you would have thought that, now I have the immunity, now I've tested negative, and probably there's no need for me to wear a mask. But it is very, very important to understand that, when you wear a mask, you're not only protecting your own self, but you're also protecting the other person. And the schematic here shows exactly the same. So when an infected person talks to a healthy person with a mask on is not as exposed as a healthy person that does not have any kind of shield. But when an infected person with a mask on is interacting with a healthy person with a mask on, then the number of particles that pass through that mask is reduced by 75%. So you are definitely contributing to COVID prevention by wearing a mask when you yourself are infected, and you're contributing to wearing a mask when you're healthy, but you're in contact with a host or with an infected person, by playing your part, by being responsible, by being socially and morally in that space where you're taking effective measures on your own and contributing to prevention of the disease. So it is very important both for the infected person and for the infected person to wear a mask. So now we know why we need interventions, why we need a shield. We know what is the relevance, what is that logic behind the 6 feet social distance that we have optimized, because now we've tracked how far the particle can travel, and what is that range that we should maintain in order to keep ourselves safe. We know why we should be wearing masks. We know that it is very, very important to keep the ambient atmosphere or the space in which you are spending most of your time during the day ventilated. And of course, it's very, very important also to maintain hygiene, hand hygiene, physical hygiene, because we have evidence that the virus spreads through fomite transmission as well. And only with all these preventive interventions in place can we really, uh, be effective, can we really be successful in controlling the virus. So now we know all the preventive measures, and we probably have developed a little bit of logical understanding as to why do we need these preventive measures. So now it is also a time to sort of bring in some behavioral change. So handshake should be a thing of the past. We should now, get used to greeting people by namaste, because when we're shaking hands, we are probably making ourselves more vulnerable. Masking or wearing a shield around the face is, again, a social habit that we'll have to inculcate if we want to keep the virus at bay. Washing hands is very important, maintaining 6 feet distance, and also ensuring proper ventilation of the indoor spaces is required as well. The fight is not yet over. We have to still keep ourselves we still have to keep ourselves on the toes to make sure that we overcome this pandemic, and that we remain grateful to all those who've helped us during the pandemic, and that we make informed decisions. And that's all from me. Thank you so much. I would like to welcome questions now.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for all the valuable ideas. And now I'd request everyone, if you have any queries, any doubts, please put it in the chat box, or you can just raise your hand and open up your mic and you can ask ma'am. Yes, I think we have any questions.
I completely understand, most of it probably you've already heard very many times by now. But if you have questions related to this topic or any other topic that interests you about environment, I would be happy to discuss that. If not, then I would leave you, because it's a
Okay.
Saturday and you were gracious enough to still come on board and listen to me for about half an hour. So I completely understand students want to enjoy their Saturday afternoon
Uh,
and plan the day ahead.
Disha
So
ma'am, actually there are few
yeah.
students who want to ask something. And Neetu, you can unmute. You have raised your hand, Neetu. You can unmute.
Yeah, before that, one little, I would like Dr. Disha to spread the information about. This is about wearing a surgical mask, which when you enter any hospital, they ask you to wear that surgical mask, which is, do you think is the good one, instead of wearing N95 mask or the cotton, cloth mask, which people are every day using. So which one is the proper one should wear to, not to be get infected or to infect other people? I think you should just give a little light on that so that people can understand before we go ahead.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. So wearing a surgical mask is any day better than wearing a cloth mask or just, tying a cloth piece around your face. And that's because, the surgical mask has a smaller diameter and is a more effective filter.
No, but it is
than a
not
simple.
very closed from this side. When you wear it, it
Yeah.
is not very
So you
close.
have to ensure that it is a snug fit. So if it is not a snug fit, or if it is loose on the sides, then one of the ways is that you
Just
fold,
your time. Fold
you
it.
fold it around the ears and make sure that it
It
fits
should
you
properly
properly.
cover.
It should
cover
properly cover the face. It should not have any leeway or any space around the cheeks from where the air can enter. So if you ensure that it is a snug fit, that it fits you properly, then definitely surgical mask solves the problem. But if you're not really comfortable, having it wound very tightly around your face or around your ears, then what you can do, and what I personally do, and is a very effective way of protecting your own self, as I would say, is that you wear one and then you cover it with a cloth mask, which covers your face
Because
entirely.
as
So
far
you
as
wear
fashion is there,
yeah,
with the matching, colored
right.
cloth masks.
Exactly. So this is something that I usually do myself. I wear an extra layer on top of the surgical mask, and I think it provides a good enough protection. As for N95, if you have N95 masks, nothing like that. But one problem that I've seen in N95 masks is usually,
Right.
they have the perforations. No, they have the perforations. They have these
Yeah.
weird lines going around. And
Lines,
that defeats the purpose of a mask. Through those percolations, the air can enter unfiltered and you're as exposed as without a mask. So make sure that if you're going for an N95 mask, it is completely solid in the sense that it doesn't have any holes or any perforations around it. Yeah, so these would be just two flags about the N95 mask. Other than that, surgical masks work well if they're a snug fit. If not, they can very easily be covered with an additional layer of cloth mask.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, ma'am, that might have cleared the doubt. And we have some queries in the chat box, so I'll just take one by one. There's a question by Neha Porwal. She was asking, you mentioned that a 5 centimeter particle can travel up to 80 meter. So is the mask enough to lower the spread of COVID? What are your views, ma'am, on
Yeah,
this?
that's a very good question, Neha Porwal, and I'm glad that you asked it. So 80 meters is the maximum distance till which, the aerosol particles that were infected with the virus have been tracked. So that's the maximum distance. But if you have if you're breathing air which is very, very highly concentrated with the infected virus particles, or with the virus particles to say, then you have to wear a mask. It may not provide 100% protection, or it may not save you entirely from the dangers of catching COVID. But what it will do is it will help you not breathe in a very high load of COVID-19 coronavirus particles. So the viral load that you will probably breathe in with the mask on will be way lesser, and your own immunity will be effective and efficient in fighting that little viral load. So it is very important to wear a mask. And even if you're standing like 80 meters away from an infected person, where the density or where the concentration of droplets with virus particles in it is very, very less and scarce, then that in such an environment, wearing a mask in itself is sufficient. So basically what the mask does, if it's a normal mask, if it's a surgical mask, or if it is a cloth mask, it doesn't provide you 100% protection. Even the N95 masks provide you only 95% protection from the coronavirus. So if you're blocking 95% of the particles, you're still breathing in 5%, but you're breathing in only that little fraction, which is 5%, which your body can take care of on its own. But if it is 50%, 60%, then that would be a very high viral load for your body to fight and keep itself healthy.
Ma'am, there are two more questions. I'll just read it out. How can we manage our health with hygiene when we are ill and having weakness, and we don't even want to bath? Is it a good or bad idea to bath after fever, ma'am?
Well, Tanya, thank you for your
This.
question. I really enjoy such candid questions. Well, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an MBBS doctor. I'm a doctor in atmospheric science. So I can only tell you, if you can still maintain your health hygiene, and if you can, still follow COVID appropriate behavior if you're not feeling well, or if you're down with the virus, then there's only one thing that I can suggest you to do. I don't know if you should be taking a bath or not. That's something that a medical doctor perhaps will tell you better. But you can always, shelter at home. You can keep yourself in quarantine. You can make sure that you're not coming in contact with healthy people. So these are the basic things you can do. Yeah, but thank you, Tanya, for listening and for asking such an interesting question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And thank you, Tanya. And now I'll take question of Sanya Vyas. And ma'am, what are the other steps in which we can take care of? I think it's our health and hygiene at home. Okay.
Well, at home. So, this is again a very good question. And there is no simple answer to this, because when at home, even if we take all the precautions and all the measures, then we still end up somehow making others around us vulnerable. But if you know for sure that you've tested positive and you have all the symptoms, then you can just lock yourself up in one room. And I mean, that would be the only thing to do. Eat healthy, make sure that you don't come in close contact with people of a certain age, be it the younger ones, the children, or the old age people. Or if there's anybody suffering from a certain disease in your family, you should not go near them. So these are like the basic things you can do. But I completely understand, when at home, when infected, and you have I mean, it's really difficult. You basically end up infecting everyone else. But one of the logical things here to do would be just to, quarantine yourself in a room if that's possible. Yeah.
Ma'am, there's a last question that even I want to know. I'm very curious about this. It is also said that Omicron can be the end of Delta variant of COVID. How correct is the fact? Because it is said Omicron spreads 4 times more faster than the Delta variant.
Well, Neha, thank you again. This is again not really in the ambit of my expertise, but I'll still try to share the knowledge that I've gained on the topic. So, coronavirus. So all the viruses have this special feature of mutating and changing their nature. So first we had Delta, now we have Omicron, and within Omicron, we have different strains. So, the virus has different receptors on its surface. And it is the changes in that receptor that sort of make it more human friendly or increase the transmissivity of a virus. And it is true that Omicron spreads faster, but it is very difficult to say that, Omicron will be the last of all the coronaviruses that we've seen during the pandemic. Well, maybe we will have a variant in the future again, but it won't be a very virulent variant, or it won't be the variant from which we'll have a lot of lethality, and eventually it will sort of take shape of, because now a very high percentage of global population has already been exposed to the different variants of COVID or coronavirus. So we have developed a natural immunity, and a very large percentage and an increasing number of people around the globe are getting vaccinated as well. So we are developing immunity against the virus. So it is very likely that, the virus will keep mutating, but the resistance that a human body offers against these viruses will keep on growing as well. And eventually, we'll see uh, uh, an end of the pandemic. It may come next year, it may come year later or 2 years later, or, but eventually we will get there, where we will have enough of antibodies developed because of vaccination, because of natural infection, that Omicron will no longer be a very lethal virus. Sorry, not Omicron. Coronavirus family will not produce any more lethal viruses capable of causing global pandemic. It will first reduce to the endemic level, and eventually it will die down, is my understanding so far.
Okay, ma'am, there's one more question, two more questions. We'll just take them. And ma'am, is Omicron or third wave dangerous to only kids? There are certain tumors like that. What do you think about this, ma'am?
Well, I know as much about Omicron infecting kids as probably most of you. And, my source of knowledge, of course, is Twitter and news channels and newspaper. So it is true that, Omicron is infecting kids, which is why we've now started vaccination campaign for children above, not children exactly, young adults or people above 15 years of age. And this time around, we did see a spike in the number of infections among children. So, yeah, I mean, these are not rumors. Children are getting affected. But then the good part is that the hospital admission rates of children are still low, and the death rate as well is quite low. So I don't think that there's really anything to worry about. At least nothing of that sort has been flagged or we've seen in the news so far. So yeah, I think children, yeah,
What
getting
are the
infected
other
is in fact.
steps? Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, what are the other steps for health and hygiene that we can take in our at our home?
Well, what other steps would you take? You have to follow COVID appropriate behavior for indoor environments, which includes, washing your hands regularly, maintaining personal hygiene. Um, if you're infected yourself, then probably quarantining in a separate space, in a separate room, wearing the mask, making sure that, you have gotten both the doses of vaccines, spreading information about the right things to do, etc., etc.
Thank you, ma'am. The last question I'll take is of Neha again. And I've also come across this case study that air pollution contributes the spread of COVID. If this is correct, then how?
Neha, again, a very good question. And it is 100% correct that air pollution aids in the spread of COVID. And I did show you in one of my slides, that virus, when emitted, becomes a part of respiratory droplet and sort of increases in size. So when we have air pollution, so we already have a lot of particles suspended in the air. And those particles then, act as a surface on which the virus can easily deposit. So had the virus been smaller, it would have, not gotten concentrated in one place and would have traveled and then, gotten dissociated or would have died down. But if it gets a sort of a surface to deposit on, it can survive for a longer time. And which is why, because of air pollution, we have more concentration of the viral particles in the ambient atmosphere. So air pollution definitely acts as a contributing factor for COVID-19 because we provide more particles for the virus to settle down on and then infect people around. Yeah, so it is very correct that air pollution is a big contributor.
I hope all of you got your answers. And ma'am, there's one question that I want to ask you, because when I was going through your CV, there was a lot of things and I got to know a lot about you from that. So there's one curiosity. I just wanted to ask this question to you, that ma'am, how did you manage to do all those things? Like those, I have seen you've done very amazing projects and research as well. So ma'am, what was the one thing that you kept doing all those internships and then projects and one after the other?
So thank you, dear. Thank you that you read my CV and you came up with this question. So this is something that I share with all my students. So first of all, you have to be truly interested in what you're doing, because once you truly like your work, then you make that extra effort of knowing what's the best thing for you to do. What's that one topic, and who is that one person, or what is that one college where you would like to study that one specific topic in the broad field that you're studying. So I always kept an eye on all of these factors. I knew the people I would want to work with. I knew the topics specifically that I wanted to study. I knew the kind of opportunities that were there for me. So once you're truly invested in what you're doing, you sort of gather all this information out of interest, out of curiosity. So if the message for you here is that if you really want to go for further studies, for higher education, if you want to take academia, or if you want to step into academia as your career, then make sure that you know the top people in your field, that you're aware of who publishes what and whose work you like the most. So if you know the people, if you know the places where they work, then opportunities will come on their own. You should not hesitate in contacting people whose work you admire, with whom you would want to learn. And I think with that in mind, you will do good, and you will also get all the things in your way that you plan and that you aspire for. Yeah, and my best wishes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I'm extremely grateful for having you on board today. And thank you for agreeing to be with us in this event today. And yes, I'll just end, and I'll invite Zenith ma'am. If there's no more queries, I'll just invite ma'am for the vote of thanks, and we'll just go for that.
Thank you,
ma'am.
I was equally delighted to be a part of this, and I really enjoyed the kind of questions that were put forth. And I'm glad that you all could spare some time to listen to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. There are so many takeaways today.
I'm glad, dear. Thank you.
Ma'am, you are on mute. Zenith ma'am, you are on mute.
Okay, now
Yes.
can you hear me now? Okay,
Yes,
I'll start
ma'am.
with a quotation. Everyone knows about it. Cleanliness is next to godliness. What I think is it's a mindset, actually, how you keep yourself clean. Thank you, Dr. Desha. Thank you so much. I, on behalf of the Cleanliness Committee, being the co-convener of this committee, I would like to extend my thanks to you for sharing this valuable information in how to maintain hygiene and what exactly is this particular virus is, which has really created so much of trouble for every one of us in this era. this was really helpful for all of us to understand exactly what this virus is and how you can, go ahead in maintaining that COVID behavior, how to, do some preventive measures, and how to keep yourself clean, how it spreads also that you have explained so that people can take care of. And definitely its impact, how it has impacted badly at 3 levels, which you have explained. And everyone must have been, understood. We have to really work hard to get back to that particular platform where we had, 3 years back, or, we have to really work harder. Exactly. And what I could think out of all this, yes, we have to, first, as far as this vaccination drive is concerned, yes, everyone should be vaccinated. And definitely that desi खाना जो हमारे यहाँ हमेशा होता है, जिससे हमारी इम्यूनिटी स्ट्रांग होती है, वो बहुत जरूरी है. बिकॉज अब बच्चे जो हैं वो बहुत ज्यादा जंक फूड और इन सब चीजों में बहुत हो गए, so इसलिए भी इम्यूनिटी जो है वो वीक हो गई है. सो वी रियली हैव टू वर्क हार्ड ऑन दैट टू. आंवला खाएं, हेल्दी जरूर हो, वो सब चीजें जो हम लोग हमेशा से अपने घरों में रखते रहे हैं और इम्यूनिटी जिससे हमारी स्ट्रांग रही है. बच्चे अब इन सब चीजों से दूर भागते हैं, बट आई थिंक वी शुड थिंक अबाउट इट. या बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि हमेशा आप वैक्सीनेट कर करके हर चीज के लिए अपनी बॉडी को तैयार नहीं कर सकते हैं.
नहीं,
हर जगह जरूरी भी नहीं है, तो
से
आपको
बहुत
नेचुरल
जरूरी
इम्यूनिटी तो बहुत जरूरी है. और डेफिनेटली वो सब सफाई और हाइजीन के ऊपर तो काम करना ही है. और जैसे पहले होता था कि घरों के बाहर चप्पल उतार के घर के अंदर आया करते थे, वो सब चीजें आई थिंक वी हैव टू गो बैक टू दैट पर्टिकुलर टाइम पीरियड अगेन. वी हैव टू थिंक अबाउट इट कि वो बहुत जरूरी चीजें रही हैं. और हमेशा घर में
लाइफस्टाइल मेंटेन करना
हेल्दी
बहुत जरूरी है.
लाइफस्टाइल, ये बहुत जरूरी है. ये चीजें बहुत जरूरी हैं डेफिनेटली. सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर शेयरिंग ऑल दैट इंफॉर्मेशन विद एवरीवन ऑफ अस प्रेजेंट हियर. बहुत अच्छा लगा, बहुत अच्छा आपने ये सब एक्सप्लेन किया. At the same time, we all are really grateful and thankful to our principal ma'am. Definitely, without her support and encouragement for these type of things to happen was not possible. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, Professor Sadhna Sharma. Has always been there for all the things to happen anytime. So as it is a teamwork, I thank all the members. Our convener, Dr. Krishnapriya Sen, our members of this committee, Dr. Nazia, Dr. Shivesh, and definitely all the students who have been really working hard at this platform to make the things happen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again. It was really nice and pleasure to hear you. Thank you.
Well, likewise, I've actually enjoyed these lecture series a lot. Last time when I came, then also I went back with a very good feedback from students and from the teachers alike. And again, I somehow feel that I connect more with all girls. And because you're an all-women college, it sort of, gives me all the more pleasure to come here and share, my thoughts on certain topics. So I would love to be associated in any other way as well. And girls, feel free to contact me. Feel free to keep in touch. It just need not be about, all these academic topics. If you want some advice on research or, on pursuing higher education, etc., etc., find me available. I've given you my Twitter address. I've given you my email. So yes, feel free to write to me.
It was really nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Shivesh, can we take the picture? Have we taken it, or Shivesh, Nazir?
Yeah. Any student, you are taking the pictures?
Yeah, please switch on your cameras, everybody, for the picture.
Yeah, please, everyone. Good to see you. बाकी कहाँ है सब?
तुम सबको थैंक्स दे रही थी, तुम्हें भी थैंक्स देना चाहिए, तुमने इतना अच्छा वो किया.
मैंने क्या किया, बाकी सबने काम किए हैं.
नहीं, तुमने जो बोला वो बड़ा अच्छा था. Spoke very well.
Thank you.
So I guess
It's all
is it done? Is it done with the picture?
Thank you, everyone.
फोटो सबका क्लिक कर लिया? फोटो हाँ
शिवेश अपडेट करो, शिवेश, नाजिया हुआ कि
Yes,
नहीं?
ma'am, we have already taken.
नाजिया का है
Okay.
नाजिया हाँ
डॉक्टर दिशा वाज
हाँ।
देयर, सबके साथ हो गया, उनके
Yes,
साथ हुआ?
yeah.
Okay, good. Nice to listen her.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Disha,
this
ma'am.
one
Thank you,
I
everyone.
just wanted
Bye,
to
girls.
ऑफिस में
Yeah.
बोलना पड़ेगा ऑफिस में बोलना पड़ेगा
Yes, I'm going to stop recording now.
हाँ
Okay.
Bye.
Ma'am, I wanted to Ma'am, I actually wanted to say something. Like it was a really good session, and in my family, everyone just makes mask out for fashion. They just have to make a mask out of the clothes they wear. So now I can actually tell them that it is not.